Start MODO and load the project you want to light. It makes most sense to use the render layout in MODO when using HDR Light Studio. When using HDR Light Studio, it's important to set up your camera view first. Ensure that the camera you want to light is set as the render camera, and then in the 3D view make sure it's also set as the render camera. This means when HDR Light Studio starts, we will be lighting the correct view. Make sure you click in the 3D view to make it active before starting HDR Light Studio. In the shading panel, let's go to the environments and select the environment. Now you can see on the environment properties are the HDR Light Studio controls. This is where we will start HDR Light Studio. The first thing to do is select the renderer that we're using for this project, in this case MODO. Then we simply press the Start button. This will start HDR Light Studio in a connection with MODO. Now that HDR Light Studio has started, you will see that the environment is now using a temporary file that has been provided by HDR Light Studio. As the lighting changes in Light Studio, it will update MODO. Your interface in HDR Light Studio should look like this. If it doesn't, go to Window, Layout, Load, Default, MODO, and fill your screen with the HDR Light Studio interface. In the latest version of the MODO connection for HDR Light Studio, this now supports seeing two render views inside of HDR Light Studio. Let's concentrate on this new render view. Let's press play. What has happened is that we have started a preview render, interactive render session in MODO, and the image from that interactive render is now being displayed in the HDR Light Studio interface. If you were using Octane Render, you would see an interactive Octane Render image being shown in this view. But in this example, we're using the MODO Renderer. Let's make our first light. If we go down here and select the Presets tab, we can see a whole load of preset lights. Let's get a light, drag it and drop it onto this view. The light has been added to the HDRI map to reflect where the light was dropped. This is because the light paint mode in this view is set to reflection, the default. To reposition the light on the model, click and the light is moved to reflect in that location on the HDRI map. If we click on the light list tab, you can see that this new light has been added to the light list. If you had a complicated scene in MODO and the interactive rendering in this view was slow to update, say taking a few seconds, we can use HDR Light Studio's inbuilt renderer for a really fast lighting experience. Let's try it. Press play. By default, we will generate and import a temporary Alembic file generated by MODO. I'll press import. Okay, the MODO scene is being rendered in this interactive preview. Let's make a quick adjustment to the shader of this view. I'll change the colour to a dark red. And I'll change the reflectivity to be a slightly closer match. If I go back to the light properties, I'll increase the brightness of this light. Okay, if I click, I can reposition the light and it updates really fast in our inbuilt render view. In addition, I can click and drag in the HDR Light Studio render view to find the sweet spot interactively for a light. When I let go, MODO is updated and the MODO interactive render will update. If this render view was rendering really slowly, you can use the pause and play button here to do test renders from time to time whilst you light the shot primarily in the inbuilt render view. With a single setting, a light can be removed from the HDRI map and created as a 3D area light in MODO. In the Light Properties panel with the light selected, enable Area Light checkbox. The light will be shown on the canvas but will be removed from the HDRI map that is lighting the render view and that is shared with MODO, although the view will look very similar. But this is now an area light. You can see in the light list the text has gone yellow and it's labelled as an area light. Over here in the Light Properties panel there is a Smart Dolly slider. If we use this slider and drag the light in closer, and let's hide the background, we can see that this light, this area light, is lighting our model and is in 3D. In MODO, this light has been created. If we look back at the MODO scene, we can see that there is a folder containing the area lights made by HDR Light Studio. Also, the shader has been set up for the emissive material for this area light. All of this is handled automatically by the HDR Light Studio connection. We can easily duplicate area lights and make as many as we want around our model. And as you can see, we get instant updates in the inbuilt render view, and then MODO will catch up. If we look back at our MODO scene, you can see these area lights in 3D space around the model. Okay, if we decide that we don't want these lights as 3D area lights, but we want to return them to the HDRI map, with a single click of the area light checkbox, we turn that off and they are returned to the map. If we go back to MODO, we can see that the connection has deleted these lights and associated shaders. So effectively, the MODO scene is kept in sync with all the lighting changes made in HDR Light Studio. Okay, I'm going to delete the lighting and just load a preset rig by double clicking. Okay, so let's assume we're happy with our lighting made in HDR Light Studio. The final step is to produce the high quality production HDRI map. Click on the HDR button and select a resolution for the map. You can choose a resolution for any area light textures. In this case, on this lighting design, we don't have any. And then we will browse to the desktop, and I will call this Light Demo. And if we press render, HDR Light Studio will generate a high quality HDRI map and any textures for area lights at high quality, and it will, through the MODO connection, update MODO to use those high quality files that are on disk. Okay, so if we minimize HDR Light Studio, and with the environment selected, if we now press stop, that's the end of our lighting session within HDR Light Studio. If we were to do a render now from inside MODO, MODO is now using the high quality image file that has been saved to disk for the HDRI map, and we get a really good result. If you decided you wanted to make a change to the lighting, the MODO connection to HDR Light Studio has embedded the lighting design in your MODO scene. So always make sure you save your MODO scene to store that. If we select the environment and press start, HDR Light Studio will be restarted, and it has automatically loaded the embedded lighting design from MODO. So effectively you can carry on where you left off and update your lighting. So if I press the play button here, we will show the interactive render, and if I was to change a color of a light, and then if I wanted to update MODO, I would browse, let's give it a different name, new lights, press render, minimize HDR Light Studio, and stop the connection. And we can see here that the lighting has been updated to use the new lights file that's on disk. So this concludes the tutorial for how to use HDR Light Studio with MODO. Thanks for watching.